We're just sitting on a bench here outside the Reed Library at the UWA campus up in Perth in Crawley. UWA stands for University of Western Australia, and I've come early this morning. I travelled up to Perth yesterday to play a few gigs with my bandmate John Edwards, who's one of the most incredible musicians in the world, and one of the nicest men you'll ever meet as well. Last night we played at the Wolf Lane Bar in the middle of the city, and it was a blues gig, and we played, they got us to play for 4 hours, which is a long time to be playing, but we had great fun, and the people were really nice, and they gave us lots of their Wolf beer and lager and all sorts. And there was a man at the front on a wood-fired barbecue with an actual axe and a beard and a bandana on. And I thought, geez, I think this guy's more rock and roll than the band. But he was very friendly too. And this morning I have to write an article for a magazine about grandmothers who are in this surfing club together back in Albany, where I'm living at the moment. And they're called, the deadline was actually yesterday. I had to hand this in yesterday, but I had 3 other articles I had to hand in yesterday as well, and I got the other 3 articles in, and I just wasn't able to do this grandmother this grandmother surfing story. So I asked the editor, Amanda, who I usually ask the editor, I said, can I do this past the deadline? And Amanda, also being very lovely soul, said, yes, you can, Adam. And we have the same conversation every month, every time the deadline comes around for these articles. But she still keeps sending me stories, and I still keep writing them for her. So there's a nice relationship there, worked out, where I think we know each other. I think she knows that I'm not going to get these articles into her until the 11th hour, or sometimes 10 past the 11th hour, or sometimes whatever the hour is. It's the 12th hour, I suppose, isn't it? So she's given me this story, and they're called. There's a lot of wildlife up here at this uni. There's an army of ducks that are walking towards me at the moment. I haven't got any bread for them. I don't think you're supposed to feed them bread anyway, but they look very they look nice and fat. They don't look like they're missing any meals. There's like a moat around the outside of the library. It's an incredible place. So there's ducks and there's peacocks. There's peacocks running around here. There's all kinds of birds. It feels like you're in like a zoo almost. A zoo with a university in the middle of it, which is kind of cool. Which I think all zoos should have a university in the middle, or all universities should have zoos surrounding them. It's an idyllic place. I had a friend whose name was Abdullah. I don't know what his middle name was. Well, I don't know what his middle name is. Actually, I think I do know what it is. It might have been another Abdul or another Abdullah. A lovely man. Obviously a Muslim, but he was an atheist Muslim. So he was like a cultural Muslim, but an atheist, which was an interesting mix. But I remember he was always talking about the idyll that is the university. The idyll, that's a strange word. Another word that's weird is fecund, which I never really liked. And fecund, which sounds like a mix between the word fuck and the word cunt, means like blossoming, means like lots of. So if you go out to your garden and you've planted roses, and the roses are in full bloom, and you have, you have 1,000 roses in your garden. You're supposed to stand there and admire the fecundity of it all, which is just peculiar. Because usually words have some kind of interaction with their meaning and how they sound. Well, not usually, but I don't know how that caught on. There's a radio guy here in Australia, and he uses the word a bit too much, because I don't think people in real life are using the word fecund. And another fellow who uses that word is the chef, Rick Stein. He's always banging on about the fecundity of rice paddies, or the fecundity of the peppers in Spain. There's a plane just flying overhead. It's all happening, but there's no one here. There's no one here at all. So I have to write this article. The article's called Granny Grommets. And if you're not into surf culture, regardless of your age, a grommet is like a new surfer. So if you're like a 12-year-old kid and you've just got your first bodyboard or your first surfboard, and you're out there in the waves and you're working out wave etiquette, and you're working out how to stand on your board without falling off, and you're working out how to duck dive under the wave to get out the back of the set or whatever it is, then and you're getting in people's way, and you're taking waves off other people, but you're not utilizing them because you fall off before you can even ride it, then you're a grommet. There's a healthy mix of support and disdain for grommets. Yeah, the surfing culture is quite odd that way, because you have these guys and girls who are out on the ocean, and they're soaking up all the energy of the ocean, that insanely beautiful energy of all the energy. And they're usually very peaceful people. They're usually very peaceful. They're a bit like jiu-jitsu people. They're pretty mellow. They're pretty chilled. And they're out in nature. They're getting lots of vitamin D. They're in good shape. Surfers have very good bodies. Females and males have very good bodies. Yet they have this almost rite of passage. If you're new to the game, if you're a grommet, they have this rite of passage where they will show you the ropes, but at the same time, it's get the fuck out of the way, you little grommet. You're ruining the waves. Which is, you kind of get a little battle tested to see if you're able to stick out there. But anyway, there's 70 grandmothers who live in Albany, and I think the oldest is 85 years old, and the youngest is 65 years old, and there's 70 of them, and every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock for the last 20 years, at least 40 of them meet on a beach in Albany with their wetsuits and their hats, their swimming caps and their bodyboards, and they hit the waves. And they've been doing it for 20 years. So I have to write a story about that. I have to write 1,000 words on that. And at the beginning, when I first got the phone call, I was like, Adam, you have to go and cover an all-female surf club. I was like, okay, I can do that. Yes, I'm your man. They're all septuagenarians and octogenarians. Well, I can probably still do that. When I was talking to one of the grannies, like one of the head grannies, one of the chief grannies, and she sounded so vibrant and so alive and so aware of the benefit of what she was doing. Yeah, and I think I certainly take people's actions for granted sometimes. Like when you see a jogger jogging on the side of the road, you think, he's a jogger, that's what he does. But I think in reality, that guy's made a decision, or that girl has made a decision to get out and jog. And it's the decision to jog that makes you a jogger, or it's the decision to surf that makes you a surfer, or it's the decision to do anything that makes you whatever it is you've decided to be. And even if you decide to lay in bed, well, that's a decision in itself. You've decided to be that. I went into the library just then, and it's empty because it's quite early. It's like I got here just after 6 in the morning, and it's a Saturday morning. But it is exam week, so the library's open like 24 hours at the moment. But inside it's pretty empty, and there was a girl in the computer lab. And the computer lab is like a huge, like it takes up the entire floor. So in a sea of computers, there was no one there except for this one Asian girl, but she was asleep at the desk. And not only was she asleep at the desk, but she had a pillow under her face. And I was thinking, man, this young woman, and maybe she's studying, who knows what she's studying. She might be a heart surgeon in 5 years or next year, or she might be a vet, or she might be a forensic accountant or whatever. That this young woman, had the discipline and the will to say, I'm going to study so hard, I'm going to hit the books so hard, so intensely, that I'm going to bring a pillow, because at some stage I'm going to pass out at this desk, and I don't want to go home. I don't want to go back to my house, my housemates, my dorm room. I'm going to bring a pillow and I'm going to sleep on this desk. And when I wake up, I'll be out where I need to be. I'll be right back into it. I'm not going to miss a beat. I thought it was incredible that she brought a pillow along with her. Man, I was interviewing a farmer. He was one of these, he was an 80-year-old dude as well. He was like 80, yeah, he was 80 years old. He'd been farming since he was like 15. And he owned a few hundred acres of land just outside of Albany. And that was like his retirement farm. He was one of these guys that owned like 10,000s of hectares of land, a wheat farmer, a sheep farmer, a cattle farmer. And now he retired on a couple of hundred acres, and he had like 50 or 60 cows on his property, and that was all he was doing. And he was writing his autobiography, his farming autobiography, and he had a really good style the way he wrote it. It was very, you could feel the dry earth coming out of his work. But one of his phrases was that he said, Adam, you've got to get up fucking early to beat a Chinaman. And that girl that's on the second story in the computer lab with a pillow, I think proves his point. Amazing. I'm out here because I couldn't get into my computer. My password didn't work, but it's so early, the librarians aren't here, so I have to wait. So I've come out to think about the granny grommets. How am I going to approach that article, and just soak up this pristine environment, man. It's unbelievable. And the security guard, because I was walking around looking for a librarian, and there was an Indian man who was the security guard, and he was really lovely, and he had the affectation of Benicio del Toro in The Usual Suspects. He talked. I won't do an impression. I definitely won't do an impression. He was one of these cool, very relaxed Indian men. I think Indian people are among my favorite people in the world. They really are. There's something about them. I think the way they talk is hilarious. And I think they think the way they talk is hilarious too. And I think they play it up. I think their food is among the best on the planet. And they have had a long history of poverty, as well as a constant march towards enlightenment. They have perhaps one of the greatest icons of progressive civil rights as one of their national heroes. Apparently he didn't mind bouncing his wife off the four walls, the Mahatma, which I was very surprised to hear. That's very interesting. I don't know if that's true. I should probably check that up, see if it's true. I heard John Denver did the same. I heard John Denver used to engage in domestic violence. I heard John Denver, Rocky Mountain John Denver, that he took a chainsaw to his kitchen table once in a fit of Nebraskan rage or Ohio rage, or wherever the rage was bubbling inside him. It's terrifying. I always think of these women that are married to these lunatics. Must be fucking awful. Especially if you didn't see it coming. Like if you met John Denver and listened to his music, you think you'd be okay with this fella. You think there's not going to be a problem here. And if you decided you were going to hook up with Gandhi, surely you're going to be in a safe space in that domestic environment. But apparently not. Humans, man. Humans. I hope you can even hear over all these birds. This is unbelievable. This is actually unbelievable. The air is really nice and still. The trees are taller than the 5-story library. That's how enormous the trees are. I tried to take a photo, but it doesn't do justice. It's like trying to take photos of clouds. It loses everything. It loses absolutely everything. On the way up, I drove through. There's a couple of ways you could drive to Perth from Albany. You can go up the Albany Highway, which if you've ever done that, it's not a very interesting drive. Albany is so isolated. Perth is the nearest city. It's 400 kilometers away. And the next city from Albany is, I think, Adelaide, which is 2,000 kilometers away, I think. 2,500 kilometers away. And I think someone said there are cities in Asia that are closer to Perth than other cities in Australia. So when you drive to Perth, you're driving through. It's not fair to call it a wasteland, but there's really not a lot going on there, and the drive up to Perth is quite uninspiring. So I drove from Albany. I drove to a town called Boyup Brook, and then from Boyup Brook I went to a town called Donnybrook, and then I went to a town called Collie, which is a coal mining town, apparently, and they make really good beer there, really nice beer, but they only sell it in Collie. But that's kind of cool. I like that. But I was driving through Boyup Brook, and it's so in the middle of nowhere that you have no internet, and there was I didn't really know where I was going, and I didn't write a map down before I left, so I had no I didn't really know what was going on. And then I saw a man walking down the road holding hands with his daughter, and his daughter was in a school uniform, because it was like 8:30 in the morning when I was there. So he was walking his daughter to school, and he was wearing his pajamas. And they were obviously, clearly pajamas. Like they had, it was a matching, it was like a flannel suit. You know, he had the pants, and then he had the button-up long sleeve pajama top to go with the pants, and the pajamas had like clouds all over them, clouds and little stars. And I have to say, it struck me. It struck me to see this man, this grown man, like he had a beard. The man had a beard and a daughter. Well, he had someone's daughter. And I realized that instinctively that I'm a little bit prejudiced towards men wearing pajamas out in public. And I was a bit disappointed at myself for feeling that way. And I was especially disappointed because I had to ask him for directions of how to get out of Boyup Brook and how to get towards Donnybrook. And as you can imagine, the man walking the streets of his country town in his pajamas, he was a delightful man. He was charming. He had a beautiful smile on his face, and he didn't look like he was in his pajamas because he was like rushed or because he'd just woken up. You know, he had clear eyes. He had that glint in his eye, and it was very clear that he was wearing pajamas with clouds on them, matching pants and a button-up shirt, because he wanted to, because he was comfortable. And then I felt silly for judging him. And then I thought I should probably wear pajamas out. I might give that a go. And he gave me directions, and the directions were true. And before I knew it, I was on my way to Donnybrook, thinking about the man in his pajamas. It's a strange existence, you know, to live in such a, like, I think I'm isolated in Albany. It's a strange existence to be that isolated, say, in Boyup Brook or Donnybrook or Franklin River. You're just surrounded by the earth and nothing else, and you know, nice, friendly people and people in pajamas walking around. It's really quite lovely. And on the way to the uni this morning, it was very, very early. I woke up at about 5:30. And I have no laptop. I forgot to bring my laptop with me, so that's why I came into uni to do the work, which was lovely. Because I could be sitting like in a small room, banging away at a laptop, but rather than that, I'm out here in this park listening to these birds with the sun. The sun's is now coming up over the back of the trees. Oh man, it's so lovely. It's really, really nice. But on the drive in, it's really nice driving through a city when it's like empty, or you know, so early morning or late at night, like the cab driver in the movie with Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx. He used to drive his cab at night in Los Angeles. I've only been to Los Angeles once, and my lord, I don't think I'd like to be a cab driver in Los Angeles. But it was nice cruising around Perth early morning, and on the stereo, on the radio, I had classic FM on, and I was listening to William Byrd, and then I was listening to Henry Purcell, and there was this piece of music, and it was called Ave Verum Corpus. I have no idea what Ave Verum Corpus means, but it was by William Byrd, B-Y-R-D, and It might have been a combination of the empty streets. It might have been the combination of feeling a little bit blurry from the Wolf Lane bar the night before. But this piece of music, it was among the most gorgeous piece of music I've ever heard in my entire life. And there was a moment where I was driving down the Great Eastern Highway bypass, virtually empty, and I had the car in 4th gear, and the car is like a diesel car. It rumbles. It's like it's a slow starting kind of cruising diesel, so it's not really built for driving around the city. It's built for long drives. It's like the dragon or the gorilla from Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. Anytime I played Mario Kart, I was either the mushroom or I was the turtle, because they took off the fastest and had the best handling. And I never went the gorilla guy, and I never went the big dragon, the big huge guys, because they would take so long to get going. And that's the kind of car I've got now. I've got the gorilla and the big dragon. Not Yoshi. Yoshi was okay. I don't remember the guy's name. The big dragon and the gorilla, and they had the same kind of car. But anyway, I was listening to this William Byrd, and it's just vocals. It's a man singing and a woman singing, and they're singing this beautiful, I don't know if it's called chamber music. It's divine sounding music, and the woman's voice was just sailing over the top of it. And my diesel, I had it in too low a gear, and it was rumbling really, really low. So I shifted it into 3rd gear, and just as I shifted it into 3rd gear, the woman changed pitch, and it was the same pitch that the 3rd gear sounded like on the diesel car. And I just thought to myself, this is evidence of a creator.